Welcome to Modern Farm Business Podcast. This podcast is designed to help the farm leader bring their business to the next level. We'll cover everything from leadership and finance to strategy and planning. I'm your host, Dean Hefta. In business and in life, it's not uncommon to find ourselves making decisions that to someone else looks completely irrational. Often these decisions involve risk. It could be a financial risk to our operation or even physical risks that threaten our own safety. In this episode, we're going to explore how our wiring works against us in making sound decisions, as well as some approaches to how we can manage these hurdles. My inspiration for this topic came from an NPR interview with Jim Koch, the founder of the Boston Beer Company, best known for Sam Adams beer. In the interview, he said there's a huge difference between scary and dangerous. There are things in life that are scary but not dangerous. And then there are things that are dangerous but not scary. And those are the real problems. Those are the issues. He shared how when he was younger and working for Outward Bound, where he would guide people on mountain excursions, he'd find that people were deathly afraid of activities like rappelling down a rock wall. The reality is, though, that thanks to the safety gear and the ropes that had the strength to lift a car, the act of rappelling is actually very safe. So let's think about this. Psychologically, when we encounter the prospect of something like descending 100 feet straight down a rock wall, our amygdala, that little nut-sized part of our brain deep down, kicks in with a fear response. It's trying to protect us. It's bringing up these emotional memories, subconsciously saying, hey, you could die. Just imagine what a 100-foot drop would do to you. Even though your frontal lobe of your cerebrum is trying to overcome that and saying, hey, this makes sense. It's going to be okay. It's safe. But rarely can reasoning and logic overcome pure emotion. What Jim Koch also noticed was, though, that there would be situations where they might be walking across a glacier in the spring, and people had very little fear of that activity. Something that was in reality very dangerous. You might have hidden cavities underneath the surface. There could be avalanches. There could be all kinds of risks that could lead to certain death. But it appeared on the surface that everything was calm and serene. So the deeper fear part of our brain really didn't kick in and raise the red flags to put people on alert. In order for them to be safe on the glacier, it required more reasoning, coaching from somebody with more experience, and a different perspective. They needed to apply that experience rather than just relying on their instincts to keep them safe in that situation. I believe these are lessons that are really easy to apply to our life and our business. Think about life on the farm. The occupation of farming consistently ranks in the top 10 most dangerous occupations in the U.S. There's heavy equipment, there's animals, confined spaces, precarious heights. When people are new to that environment, they're often very fearful of situations that they see as potentially hazardous. And in reality, they're probably right to be cautious. But our familiarity with the high-risk situations that haven't previously led to injury lead us to discounting that risk. Our amygdala has learned by repeated exposure to cleaning out a grain bin, climbing a ladder, or pulling a stuck tractor out that we've done this same thing dozens or hundreds of times. It does the calculation and says to our subconscious, you know what? We've encountered this many times and there's never yet been a problem. I guess we don't have to be afraid of it. We lose our awareness over time because of our familiarity with how that dangerous situation might actually be. The same can go for situations as we lead our business. What we can do is we can build two lists. A list of things that we might find scary, and a list of things that are perhaps dangerous, specifically as those things relate to our business. So as a business leader, what are the things that we might find scary? It could be something like introducing yourself to a potential new landlord, maybe having a tough conversation with an employee that isn't performing. Or it could be starting to grow a new crop, a vegetable crop that you've never done before. These could be situations where our fear alarm kicks in for no reason other than uncertainty. We've never done it before. We're not sure what to say. We don't know how it's going to go. So we stall. We put it off and we kick the can. The other list is what's dangerous. This list can get interesting because you're looking for things in the business that you've perhaps underestimated or ignored their potential for bringing harm to the business. These could be physical things that you've become blind to, but they'd still pose liability risks. Maybe it's that pickup with bad brakes, or that old shed with the cistern under it. Maybe it's the trailer with lights that rarely work. It's the things that we think, well, we've never had a problem, so I don't really want to deal with it right now. Size of the risk in these types of things could be so great that they could change lives and the future of the farm forever. Maybe it's something like, I'm not regularly reviewing my insurance policy every year. That could actually be a very dangerous thing to not do. Or maybe what's dangerous isn't physical. It's more about the long-term business health of the farm. Could be I've never been on top of my farm financials. I've made it 20 years doing it this way just fine. Maybe I'm discounting the risk the future might have for me by not being on top of the financials. Maybe I haven't given much attention to landlords the past few years. But what's the danger to my farm if I lose that ground? It could be that an employee that isn't performing, maybe there's a deeper issue that I really don't want to know about. Drinking or drug abuse. That alone could be a huge issue for the farm. All kinds of things might be lurking that I've grown so accustomed to that I don't even see the potential risk. The flip side is the potential for things that I thought were scary that might actually pose almost no danger. So what can we do? First, as I mentioned, build 2 lists. What are the things that you find scary? What are the things that could potentially be dangerous on the farm, physically or business-wise? Maybe it's relationally. Next, take the items on each list and move them one step further into the future, saying to yourself, if this were to happen, what will be the impact? What you'll find is this exercise focuses the mind and brings reality into the picture. So take the list of things you find scary and walk them out. If I'm scared to start growing a completely new crop, begin walking through the process and listing off all of the bad things that could happen. What are the potential costs? What will it mean if it's a failure? And so on. By taking this situation out all the way to the worst case scenario, we have a better grasp on whether we should really be scared or not. Then take something like the trailer, where the lights aren't working all the time. Ask ourselves, what's the worst case scenario? You might say, well, being rear-ended at night by a family in a car. This could be a catastrophe not only for that family and the community, but it could take the farm down financially and leave you with the burden of that accident your whole life. Suddenly, the trailer lights don't become just a nuisance that's on your to-do list, but it becomes an opportunity to really avoid a major problem. Then, as you move into the future and you evaluate situations that arise, you can ask yourself, is this something that I'm simply scared of, but there isn't much risk? Or is this something that's potentially really dangerous for the farm that I'm discounting? Keep in mind that most people are terrified of skydiving, even though it's extremely safe. And at the same time, they have no hesitation to text message while they drive, something that's proven to be hugely dangerous. Thanks for joining me again this week on Modern Farm Business Podcast. If you have any thoughts or ideas, be sure to email me at dean@modernfarmbusiness.com. I love hearing comments and ideas that you have, so be sure to send me a note. I look forward to seeing you again next week.